I would like to read um, from a satsang that Kirpal gave years ago that was published in the monthly Satsandesh magazine called The Real Hunger. And it begins with a couplet. A great yearning is within me to meet the beloved. How can I find the perfect master so as to fulfill my desire? Guru Arjan Sahib tells us of this strong desire to meet the Lord, which lies deep within the soul. What are the means for realizing this desire? We must first decide if that yearning is really there or not. No doubt the tongue does declare it and the mind agrees, but usually the heart really desires only the world and worldly things. Comb your heart thoroughly to find out exactly what it really wants, and you will see that out of a whim, sheep-like, you follow others who say they are seeking the truth. But this is not truly wanting the Lord. If the heart truly desires, the prayer springs forth without effort, like an overflowing expression which cannot be controlled or stopped. And the heart cries out, O Lord, O Master, give me this thing. See for yourself, when we want something, how we cry for it, in the night, throughout our sleep, and in all our waking hours. Every moment is spent concentrating on the desire for that worldly wish. Automatically, and with each breath, the prayer springs forth from that heart which is deep within us, the soul. This is the condition of most of us. When the heart sincerely pleads for something, that prayer is accepted by the Lord. But the trouble is that usually the heart does not want what the tongue is asking for. We are not true to ourselves. We go on cheating ourselves. If only we were sincere, with the tongue, heart, and mind all wanting the same things, we would get our wish without doubt. Our prayers reflect our desires, mostly all for worldly things, and our heart responds to this. We consider God to be some useful benefactor, and as long as He helps us achieve what we want, then we believe there is a God. But if we do not get our own way, then God becomes a doubtful factor. Majnu, the famous Persian lover for whom all the world and all religion existed only in his beloved Layla, was once told by someone, Majnu, God wishes to meet you. He replied, if God wants to meet me, he will have to come in the form of Layla. He could not even accept God without his beloved Layla. We also will not accept God unless he conforms to our desires. All our remembrances of him are for the sake of the world. Surely, when someone like Majnu died, would he not get Layla instead of God? It is all a play of the heart. When the cry comes forth from a true heart, then God prepares the way for granting the wish. It has been very beautifully expressed in the Gurbani. The prayer which is true is heard by God, and he brings that child into himself so that he may listen to him. When tongue, mind, and heart become one, that is true. All else is untrue, illusion, falseness. Secondly, one should wait. If a prayer comes from such a child, the Lord makes that child sit beside him and then says, "Ask, child, for whatever you want." Whether the heart can truly desire the Lord is a deep question. There was a true devotee named Namdev, and it is said that the balcony of his house collapsed with want of repair. So his relatives told him to get a carpenter to do the work. He went the next day to seek the carpenter, but being a true devotee, he started thinking only of the Lord, and in so doing, forgot all else and sat down quietly in his remembrance. When he arose, it was late evening, and he returned home. His people naturally asked what had happened about the carpenter. Namdev said, "Oh, I forgot, but I will bring him tomorrow." Many days then passed in the same fashion, and finally the exasperated members of his family protested and threatened him. "If you do not get the carpenter today, you will get a very rough reception upon your return." This is what is meant by devotees and the world can never meet. Anyway, Namdev promised that he would really bring the carpenter that day without fail. We must remember that lovers and devotees cannot be forced to accept a certain attitude to life, for they are intoxicated in the object of their heart's attachment. So once again, Namdev lost himself in God's remembrance, and when he opened his eyes, it was evening. He thought, "Well, now they will treat me very badly." But he started homeward philosophically accepting all that the Lord sent with a grateful heart. However, God had seen his devotees' difficulties and had himself gone to Namdev's house in the disguise of the carpenter, and in one day had completed all the repairs. One can imagine what beautiful work had been accomplished by the Lord's own hand. When Namdev arrived at the house, he at once recognized the fine work and realized what had happened. There is a Persian saying, "Only the bulbul can understand the bulbul's language." A bulbul is a bird with a very happy song. The eye of a true devotee can easily recognize the handiwork of his master. Even before Namdev entered the house, neighbors called to him to ask where he had found such a competent carpenter and what his wages were, etc. Namdev laughed joyfully and replied that that particular carpenter's wages are paid in love. They did not fully understand this, but they asked how they could get hold of him. Namdev said, "Break from gain detachment from the world and the family, and then my carpenter will come." When one has broken all attachments, he will come without asking. Of course, Namdev was one of the few true devotees of God. He did not ask God to help him, but God himself is concerned for those who are true to him. I can quote an instance from my own life. During Hazur's lifetime, when my son fell seriously ill. He was about 18 years old at the time. The doctors told me that his condition was dangerous and that I should take leave from my work for 3 days and remain with him, for he might die at any minute. So I naturally did as they advised. But Sunday fell within those 3 days, and I was detailed by my master to hold the satsang in Amritsar every Sunday. The doctor had told me not to leave my son's bedside, but I thought, to whom does this child belong? The Guru knows everything. I should do the work that he has given me. So I went to Amritsar and held the satsang there. After the satsang, I remembered that Amritsar was halfway to Beas, and my heart said, why not have the Master's darshan before returning home? So I caught a train to Beas and reached there about 1:30 p.m. It was a very hot summer season, and Hazur was upstairs. But when he heard I had come, he called me to his room. He was lying on his bed resting, but when I entered the room, he sat up and asked me, what is the condition of the boy? The masters know everything. I replied, Hazur, he is seriously ill. But as I understood, your orders were to go to the satsang. I considered that more important. Hazur became very quiet and looked quite sorrowful, and I said, Hazur, why are you in such a mood, when the slightest thought of you can make one forget all sorrows? He said, well, you have taken the load off your head, and now I must bear the burden myself. Upon returning home, I found my son was all right, and his condition had not deteriorated as the doctors had thought. These are the ways of perfect masters. This is their greatness. So I may say that if you leave everything to him, placing yourself completely in his hands, he will do all your work. He will come to the heart that truly yearns for him. Even if the heart is even slightly turned to him, he will look after you. But for the heart that truly yearns in all fullness, what can stop his coming? In the Gurbani, it states that the merciful Lord has given orders for whatever the child requests to be granted. The true child desires only this happiness, that his heart may reside in thy lotus feet. Also in the Quran, it is written, I will give whatever he wants. All masters have said the same thing in different languages. If the desire in the heart is really strong, then most definitely we can realize the Lord when there is the pain of true desire in our cries. When the heart is filled with worldly desires, physical comforts, and earthly relationships, then where would the Lord take up residence? The tongue speaks of God, and outwardly we bow down and worship all manner of images and conceptions of God. But our family and others live in our hearts. Man was intended to be a temple of God, true enough, but he himself has made the human form a temple filled with lifeless, perishable images. How can the Lord manifest in such a place. When the voice of true yearning springs forth in desperation, then what are the means of realizing God? He himself extends his mercy and leads the seeking soul to the living master, the master soul who has already realized him. The tiny cries from an ant can reach him more quickly than the loud trumpeting of the elephant. We must simply have the true yearning in the heart. That is all. He hears. He is in each and every being. He is not far away. He is not far away beyond the skies. He is the very soul of our soul. By his mercy, the Satguru is met, and this is the greatest good fortune that one can receive. We meet that master soul when the Lord himself so desires. And as we do not know the Lord, so we cannot know the Master either. By the guidance of someone with eyes, can the blind man find that which he seeks? He whose inner eye is not open is at the level of mind and senses. He cannot see the Lord working at the human pole. Such a person can have no conception of that higher power working there, and so for him, the human pole is merely a man. You will remember that during the life of Guru Nanak, he was called one who is misguided. By whom? By those whose eye was closed. So we can meet the Lord only through a competent master. If the word competent is used, it means that there are those who are incompetent also. You should be aware that the world is full of such so-called masters. You can pick up a stone and find some guru, sadhu, or saint underneath. A truly competent guru, a realized soul who has become one with the greater soul, is very, very rare. It is not a mere acting and posing and cannot be denoted by merely changing the outer appearance and by wearing garments of various shapes and hues. It is a question of competency.